It's now time to jump back into our code to learn how to use arrays. If you have any code editor windows currently open, save what you're doing and shut them down. Together, we'll all open up our lab master source code file. For the implementation of an array, let's take a look at one of the most widely implemented uses of a single dimension array, creating a set of button numbers. Typically, an array is used to store a logically grouped set of buttons. If you remember back to one of our earlier lessons, we implemented a module to communicate with a Lexicon Blu-ray player. Don't confuse this with the Tascam disc player you worked on in the assignment exercise. The functions that we programmed were 1 through 7, or play through scan reverse, according to Snappy. We're going to change up how we write the code to control this DVD player. Let's start by scrolling down to the Define Variable section. We're going to create an array of the button channel numbers for this DVD player. Once again, those numbers are 1 through 7. Very much like creating any other variable we've done so far, we have a persistence modifier. We can use volatile here. Next, of course, we need a data type. Since we're just storing button numbers, integers are the best choice. And next, we need a name for our variable. Let's call it N Blu-ray buttons. Now this is where we see a difference between creating a single variable and creating an array. We need to add a pair of brackets which will represent that we have a one-dimension array. After the brackets, use the gets operator defined by the equal sign. And since we're going to assign a set of button numbers to the variable, we need a pair of braces to enclose the data set. Within the braces, we just list each of the button channel codes separated by a comma. Therefore, we end up with volatile integer N Blu-ray buttons, open square bracket, close square bracket, equal sign, open braces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, close braces. Placing the values into the array immediately after declaring it is called initializing the array. Notice here that I did not set the size of the array by placing a 7 inside the brackets. This is allowed because the compiler will automatically set the size of the array to the number of values in the dataset being assigned. While you certainly could put a 7 in the brackets and it would not affect the compiling of the code, it is not preferred because if you decided to add another button later on and forget to change the 7 to an 8, you would get a compiler error. Leaving the brackets empty allows the code to be more easily maintained over the long run. And if you are really maximizing your efficiency, this saves you one character of typing. Next, let's look at how we can use this array in our code. I'll scroll down to the button event that we programmed for this DVD player. If you remember from that earlier tutorial, we used button 0, but a better practice would be to pass into the button event only the specific button numbers for our transport controls. Remember that button 0 acts as a catch-all for every single button on that touch panel port. Now that we have an array, this will allow for much more concise code writing. Let's change our button event. Instead of using channel 0, we'll replace that with our newly created button array. What allows us to simply pass in the name of the array is the fact that Netlinks already knows which element was just triggered. Therefore, if you press the 5 button, Netlinks knows 5 is the value it's referencing within the array. Now within the to statement, we should change button.input.channel to reference our button number array. One great Netlinks tool to do this is called getLast. Quite simply, you send the name of the array you want to reference into the getLast keyword, and it returns the index number of the array which was most recently triggered. So the way you write this is get_last, open parentheses, N Blu-ray button, close parentheses. For a more in-depth explanation of getLast, you can pause the video here and just highlight get_last and hit F1. As you can see, this creates a much higher level of efficiency, and those gains are of course multiplied when you have, say, 50 buttons instead of just 7. You might be thinking that using button event 0 seems much easier. While it is less coding, it also has the potential to cause some problems. You could accidentally assign, say, a lighting preset button the same channel code as the Blu-ray pause button. it would be very difficult to track down why your DVD keeps mysteriously pausing. Using an array, you know with 100% certainty which button channels will trigger a specific block of code. So arrays might be a bit intimidating at first, but they are pretty simple. If you don't quite follow along, I encourage you to watch the last two tutorials again before moving on to the arrays exercise. When you're ready, close down all Open Code Editor windows you may have open, and open up the P1 exercises source code.